This week, Princess Eugenie gave a rare interview in which she opened up about her childhood spinal condition. And, well, she was really very open and honest, wasn't she, Lizzie? What did we learn?
So this was a really personal interview from Princess Eugenie on an issue that is really close to her. And she was giving the interview at a place called Horatio's Garden. It is a charity that creates outdoor spaces for those that have undergone spinal treatment and have spinal injuries. And that's something she herself has experienced. She had surgery when she was just 12 for scoliosis. And she talks in this interview about the impact that that had on her of being in hospital, lying in bed, how she felt the shame of having that scar on her back, how she couldn't do anything for herself, how she just wanted to pull the blanket up over her head, and how the people around her, the support that she had, particularly from her mother, Sarah Ferguson, supporting her and trying to create a positivity around...
a badge of honour.
A badge of honour, yes. She said, you know, this is my daughter, look at her scar, she's superhuman. And she turned what, you know, Princess Eugenie talked about being quite a difficult experience into a positive experience. And we saw that at Princess Eugenie's wedding, where she had that wedding dress where you could see the scar on her back. And that was saying, you know, there it is. She's saying, you know, I support you, I hear you, you can be proud of your scars. And I think that did a lot for people, you know, facing similar situations to Princess Eugenie. So a really fascinating and personal interview.
I mean, we also had a similarly open exchange with her sister, Princess Beatrice, who opened up in an article in Vogue magazine about the preterm birth of her daughter. Is this the new norm, do you think, that, you know, the King, Princess of Wales, sharing the difficulties that they too are navigating that can impact every man and every woman?
We've seen this, haven't we, in recent years, this real openness from members of the royal family and being much more sort of transparent with what they're going through. We've seen it with the King. He has, you know, used his position and what he's going through, having had that cancer diagnosis. He wants to use his position to raise awareness, to offer hope to other people going through similar experiences. And it's really deliberate that they've never said what kind of cancer the King has, and that is because he wants to talk to everybody. He wants to keep that conversation, doesn't want to sort of shut it down to one very narrow group of people. And I think, you know, he's really been praised for that and has done a lot of work to sort of raise awareness.
He even wrote to former President of the United States, Joe Biden, who announced his own cancer diagnosis this week.
He did, didn't he? Joe Biden said that he had an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Now, of course, the King's initially went into hospital for treatment on an enlarged prostate, and subsequently cancer was found. Now, we understand that isn't prostate cancer, but a separate form of cancer which hasn't been disclosed. But nevertheless, it was interesting that the palace briefed that he had written to Joe Biden and sent his sympathies, and presumably, we don't know the details of that private correspondence, but this is, you know, from one man to another man in the public eye, you know, as world leaders, that he's there on a very human basis as well. He can share that. And it is interesting, I agree with Lizzie that we are seeing more openness. You know, who can forget that video that we had from the Princess of Wales when she said that she was undergoing chemotherapy treatment, and subsequently we saw that video at the end of last summer in which she said that she was in remission from cancer. It was a relief to have finished her treatment, and we saw her sort of playing with her family and looking at the ways in which she's tried to continue her recovery.
Yeah.
I think one really interesting comparison as well with the King and Biden is the decision about when to tell people, because obviously the King, he didn't leave it very long, but I mean Camilla went on a job that was about cancer. She visited a cancer centre before Charles had actually announced it, and so she had to keep stum while going around having conversations about cancer. And Biden, you know, there were already questions about, you know, when he knew, when he chose to say. Obviously, it is up to him. But the King is one person who is in a unique position to sympathise in terms of that really difficult decision about when you actually tell people that you have the diagnosis, when you're one of the most famous people in the world.
Yes, it certainly seems to be the new family way to open up and share more. And, well, Princess Eugenie has also been keeping up royal appearances as well. She was alongside some of her royal relatives and 7,000 guests at the Buckingham Palace garden party. The Wellses hosted the event, which was Catherine's first garden party since her own cancer diagnosis. It was great to see them all back in business. And are we starting to see the new royal lineup, do you think?
Yeah, I think this is really interesting. We've seen Eugenie and Beatrice joining William and Kate at garden parties previously. And you know, we talk about the charity work that Eugenie's doing and her sister Beatrice is doing. And I think that is really important to the family when we look at the slimmed down royal family. You know, far aside from the fact that their father, the Duke of York, has had to step down from royal duties, you know, they are still very much part and parcel of the mix. So I was
very good. You know, they're very good with people. They're very well read.
You know, I do think they're really underestimated generally,
yes,
because they, you know, when you meet them, they're very clever. They're very switched on.
Funny.
They're funny. They're pretty down to earth, given that, you know, the role they have with the royal family. And Beatrice, similarly, you know, I was at Kew Gardens recently when the King and Queen were doing an engagement for the elephant families as a charity that Camilla's late brother Mark Shand set up. Beatrice was there as one of the few guests. So it just shows how important they are. They're still very much in the mix, and I think they can be deployed as a real asset, as particularly now when, as Lizzie said, there's so few senior members of the royal family.
It's not just that they're so few, but they're also very good. But
yes,
they are two working women, both career girls.
Yeah, and young mums as well.
And young mums, yeah. How do the Wellses persuade them to give more time to royal duties, do you think?
I think it's bit by bit, slowly but surely. I think, you know, that they would do well to straddle both worlds, that they have their private life, you know, they still earn cash in the same way that Zara Phillips does. You know, she's not a working, paid-up member of the royal family. She's not taking any money through the...
And she was there as well, right?
That's right. So there she is, yeah, next to Eugenie. And again, she will support the family, she'll represent the family, but then has her own sort of life on the side. And I think this is the kind of the new era that we're seeing, I suppose, that there can be this blend, that they support the family, they're there on those big occasions, but then they can go back into a kind of quote-unquote normal life as well.
It almost sounds like you're saying they're going to be half in, half out.
Apparently,
well, we know that there are.
But
we know they can't be half in, half out, and I think it's, you know, they're still part of the family, you know, and I think that they can carry on doing that charitable work without taking a stipend from the funds that the royal household receives.
Kind of interesting, though. It's a good point that you raised, Jack.
Well, it not only will Harry and Meghan be looking at it from afar and thinking, oh, that's what we wanted, why didn't you give it to us? But also it does kind of raise questions about whether maybe they should simply have been working royals from the beginning, because obviously that wasn't available to them. And it does, I think, raise questions about that decision many, many years ago, that they were not going to be streamlined straight into a career as working royals. And actually, I always thought that they would be great at it. And there is a need for, you know, really recognisable faces who people warm to and love, you know, young royals who have energy to take the royal family in a new direction, which William and Kate are fantastic at. But it does help to have that extra, you know, well, not manpower because they're women, but, you know, women power, that extra women power.
I think it's something the Duke of York certainly wanted, whereas with the Princess Royal, Princess Anne, because she didn't want her children to have that, so she went down a different path. So they don't have the titles. It's not Princess Zara. So we don't have, you know, she's a very, you know, private individual, really.
Yeah, she is. A big day in terms of the attendance, but also a big day for the Princess of Wales, an emotional reunion with Liz Hatton's family.
It was. So Liz Hatton, if you remember, was the 17-year-old who died of cancer, sadly.
Photographer.
She was a talented photographer who had a bucket list. While suffering with an aggressive form of cancer, she decided she wanted to do as many photographic engagements as possible, and we had her doing shoots for the Times. She was invited into Windsor Castle to shoot an investiture, and it ended up being, sadly, just a few weeks before she died. But we had that moment, didn't we, last year where we saw Kate hugging Liz, and I was fortunate enough to have met Liz, and she was such an incredible such a talented young woman. It was such a shame. Her family just lovely. You can see her parents, Vicky and Aaron, there with brother Matteo. And Kate had a really nice exchange with her and William, and Matteo presented some Jellycat toys, you can see. And she said, how do you know? It matches my dress perfectly. The sort of lemon yellow dress that she's wearing from Amelia Wickstead there. And I think it was really nice for the Prince and Princess to reunite with this family. They now have a new charity set up called Capture, which is in Liz's name, to try to raise awareness and funds for this very rare form of cancer that she had.
He's a cute kid, that little boy, isn't he, Matteo? Such a smart-looking man in his suit. Two lovely little gifts, which no doubt will be winging their way to Prince Louis fairly quickly, I would imagine.
The Jellycats, actually, similarly to Kate, I was fortunate enough to meet the family just before Liz passed away. And her and her brother were like absolutely loved these Jellycats. They were telling me all about them, and so it was really sweet that Matteo gave the Princess of Wales gave her those Jellycats. And the Princess was saying to the family, you know, let's stay in touch, anything you need. And I think they have sort of a really close bond there that's formed. So it was really lovely.
A nice day.
Yeah.
A nice day, under difficult circumstances. Well, the Waleses also made another trip to Scotland, but they stayed on the mainland this time. And, well, football was on the agenda, so I'm sure William was very happy.
Very happy. He played a bit of football too. Scored a goal on his second attempt. But this was all about Street Soccer Scotland. Get my S's right there. Yeah. There is something called the Royal Foundation Community Impact Project, where they give grants to work in different communities to really help those communities. And they look around the country and see, you know, where they could really help and make a difference. We saw a grant given to community centres on the Isle of Mull recently, and now in Leith in Scotland they've given this grant to this football organisation. It's all about developing a community centre for people to use, and also the sort of using the power of sport and football to help people that are sort of in difficult circumstances.
Yeah,
so maybe homelessness, addiction, you know, situations like that. It's really trying to help those people. So make a difference.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about this is I wrote a piece profile about William recently, and someone very close to him was saying that this is a move away from that classic kind of patronages. So you would go and support an existing charity to actual projects. He wants to come away and think, I've made a difference there. Yeah. There's money that's gone into that community centre, or there's something that's happened because I went there, rather than just showing up and shaking some hands. So that's quite a radical departure, really, from you think what the King does, what the late Queen did.
Well, there's not a lot of ribbons being cut anymore, are there?
That's right, exactly that.
It goes deeper than that. But also because a lot of the work that they pursue are around passion plays and social issues that they're really well educated on. You know, there's not a lot you can teach William about the homeless situation here in the UK that he doesn't already know for himself.
That's right. Similarly with Kate and her early years project, she knows a lot about the development of under fives.
Yeah, it's not just about a photo op. It goes much deeper.
Yeah, and they're very aware that that's what they want to do as well.
They've been very deliberate in taking on fewer patronages, and what they want to do is have sort of a group of patronages that they're really dedicated to, and they can really put a lot of work and time and effort into and understand those areas, and they really want to make a difference in those patronages and those issues that they take on. We hear their team say time and time and time again, the Prince and Princess of Wales really want to make an impact, and that's, I think, what this is all about, looking at how they can maybe do the job slightly differently to kind of create that impact.
Back in Scotland again.
Yeah,
so soon.
Scotland again.
Exactly. Although there was a return to traditional form yesterday with the Princess of Wales hitting the bottle, quite literally.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Not quite as exciting as it sounds, but Kate, do fill me in.
Yes, it's not quite as scandalous as that sounds. But this is traditional royal fare. I think that will never leave their inboxes, if you like. Kate,
it's right up there with planting trees, isn't it? Although smashing a bottle of whiskey, it's normally a bottle of champagne, isn't it?
Well, up in Scotland, I think it has to be whiskey. HMS Glasgow. So this is a brand new frigate that has anti-nuclear capabilities, and Kate was part of the naming ceremony. So this was really interesting, I think, because this was William in a supporting role. He was actually playing the Prince Philip in this role, and she was at the centre of the naming ceremony. And you know, we saw the whiskey bottle smash, and that was all rather jolly.
Just a quick fun fact on naming boats. Kate's first official royal engagement ever was at a naming ceremony for a RNLI boat in Anglesey in 2011. So
Really good.
there you go.
That's why you're here, Lizzie. It's for stats like
Thank
that.
you.
And all the other great
And
stuff you bring.
thank you.
Okay.